Hello everyone, welcome back to another video of Automation Testing Insider. So this is part 21 of Selenium Framework Development series from scratch, and in the previous video we have implemented API test case in our framework using REST assured API library, right? REST assured tool. So since we don't have access to their APIs of Orange HRM application, we have used dummy endpoint, right? We have used dummy URL to implement the API test case. So basically I wanted to showcase like how can we implement API test cases in Selenium framework. So that's the reason I have used dummy application, dummy URL to implement the API test case. So this is what we have seen in the previous video. Now today we'll focus on how can we implement retry logic in Selenium framework. So why do we need this retry logic? So sometimes what happens is because of some environmental condition, like environmental issue, our script may get failed, right? So in that case what we can do, we can implement this TestNG mechanism, this retry logic, and we can go for rerun of our test cases. So maybe let's say in the first run it will fail, in the second run it may get it will pass the test case. So that's the idea behind this retry logic. So let's have a look at the agenda quickly. So we are going to talk about what is retry logic in TestNG, and this is the TestNG mechanism using which we are going to implement this retry logic. And second would be like steps. We'll see the complete steps. What are the steps which we are going to take to implement this retry logic in our framework? So let's talk about what is retry logic in TestNG. So retry logic allows automatic retrying of failed test cases before marking them as failed, correct? So useful for handling intermittent failures. What are the failures? Like intermittent failures because of like network issues. Sometimes because of network issue, if it is network is down, then our script may fail for the first run and then it may pass for the next run. So that is the reason we implement this retry logic. Another one would be timing problems because of synchronization kind of issues. Our test script may get failed, even though if we have properly synchronized our script, even though sometimes because of some other environmental timing related problems, our script may get failed. Another one would be dynamic web elements. So yeah, even though if you handle it properly in our script, sometimes there are some other elements are there because of dynamic in nature, it may fail, right? So these are the various reasons by which because of which we need to implement retry logic in our framework, or to implement retry logic in our script. Now let's talk about what are the different steps which we are going to implement to have this retry logic in our framework. So step one would be create the RetryAnalyzer class. So we are going to create one utility class, guys, that is RetryAnalyzer, which implements IRetryAnalyzer interface, right? So using which we have one method called retry. I'll show you unimplemented method retry, using which we need to just update this. We need to have this class and implement our logic over there, and that will take care of whenever we have failure of our test case, and it will go for the retry. Step 2 would be apply RetryAnalyzer to test cases. Once that class is implemented, then we can call this in our test cases, right? Option 1. So there are two ways we can do that. Option 1, directly in test class we can implement that, like at test level we can directly implement, we can call that RetryAnalyzer class, and by which we can directly call the retry method, and we can do that at test level. Second option would be apply globally using listener. So when we apply through listener, then it will applicable to all the test classes and test methods. And for sure, like we need to update testng.xml to include that listener, which we have already done. Like when we have implemented the test listener, at that time we have already included test listener, right? So that I'll show you. So let's talk about it, like practically how can we achieve this. And this is the API, guys, which I was talking about. So in the last video when we have implemented the API test case, then we have used this API. right? So if you haven't watched that video, then I would recommend go through that API video. That is very important. Now coming back to this one, retry logic. So this is the project which we are working on, RNHRM project. And if you expand it, inside srcm and Java, we have one folder called com.orangehrm.utilities. Here what I'll do, I'll create one class called RetryAnalyzer. Click on finish, and what I'll do, it will implements, we need to implement one interface called IRetryAnalyzer. IRetryAnalyzer, and we have to mouse over here, and then we need to import this, or we need to import it from org.testng. So that's TestNG mechanism, like it is coming from this interface, coming from the TestNG. And here when you mouse over here, then we need to add unimplemented methods, right? So this interface has one method called retry, using which we can implement this logic. And if you mouse over here, you can see easily over here, like interface to implement, to be able to have a chance to retry a failed test case, failed test. So what I'll do, guys, I'll just remove these two lines over here, and here I'll declare some variable private int retry count. I'll say retry count, and initially I'll assign it to, initialize it to 0, and I can say I'll put one comment over here, number of retries. I can say like number of retries. Initially it is assigned 0, assigned initialized with 0, and later on we need to take one more variable, public static, and this will be the final one, like the maximum one. So I can declare it as final, because this will be kind of constant maximum retry count, and I'll say like 2, and here I can mention maximum number of retries, like this I can mention. And here we have to give semicolon, right? And here what we need to do, we need to apply the logic. So if retry count is less than maximum retry count, correct, in that case what will happen, we need to just increment it. So simply we have to increment retry count plus plus, it will go for the like this method will be, I mean this block will be executed, this if, and then what we can say, here we can return, if it is returned true, then we can say retry the test, correct, and here it will be return false. So let me just explain you. So let's say we have like when we run our test, then initially let's say we have some issue, and initially this retry count is 0. So we will check it, right? Retry count is 0 less than max retry count. So it will go for the retry of that case. So it will become, here it will come, so it will become 1, right? And then what it will happen, next time it will try again. So this value become 1, so it will again, it will check, and then again re-execute the test case. 1 is less than 2, right? And then again it will try to execute the test case. Now it will, let's say our maximum try it 2, right? Here we have mentioned. Now again it will go for the third, and then 2 is less than 2, so this will fail, right? It will return false, because it will come over here and it will return false. So that means if you return false, that means it won't execute the case again. So this is how it will check. And in case if it is like passed in the second run, okay, like first time when we try it, if it is passed, then it will execute, it won't execute again. In case if it is passed, this will be executed only when we have failure, right? So this is how we can implement our RetryAnalyzer class. Now what we'll do, how to implement it. So what I can do, simply I'll go to the test case test level API test. I can open, and here we can apply it. So what we can do, guys, here we need to simply we have one RetryAnalyzer we have one attribute called RetryAnalyzer. This an attribute, and here we need to simply call this class, right? We have to do like this, and we have to import. One second, what is happening? RetryAnalyzer. Yeah, this is fine now, correct? So this is an attribute RetryAnalyzer which will take this class which implements this class implements IRetryAnalyzer. So don't make mistake to, this is an attribute, okay? So there should not be any spelling mistake over here. Now what we'll do, this will applicable this test case will be applicable for retry logic. Now what we'll do, let me run it first. I think right now there are no failures in the test case, so it will pass simply. So let me show you. So we have a couple of test cases over here, DB verification and API test, and other test cases, other test classes are I have already commented, right? So let's verify these two. So initially, even though like there are no failures, but it will not execute, right? So let's see, it should not go for execution again. So two test cases will be passed for the first run. So first test case is getting executed, guys. This DB verification one, you can see it is got executed, and another one is API test case that got also executed too. So two tests, both are passed, even though we have applied the retry logic over here. But since our test case is passed, so it will not go for retry. It will not retry the execute the test case again. Now what we'll do, let me see the reports. Open with browser. So you can see both the test cases are passed. Now what we'll do, we'll deliberately fail this API test. So what I can do, I can change this status code to 201, correct? So this will fail. We are expecting 200, but here I have mentioned deliberately I have failed this like 201. So let's rerun it, and what will happen this time around? So three test cases will be there. So here you can see two passes, right? So this time three test cases will be there, one passed and two failures, and two retries here it will come. So let's see that. So right click, run as TestNG suite. So here you can see, guys, 4. Why 4? Because we have given 2, right? So one is the original run, and two more time it will try, and one is from DB test case. So 4, I missed that one. So 4 test cases will be there. One is passed, the DB test case is passed, and one is failure, and 2 retries. Yeah, 2 retries. So let me show you from here. You can see 4 test cases. It is retrying. It is trying for the first time, so it got skipped at the end. Again it is retrying, so it is failure over here, and third time it is again failed, and because deliberately we failed, and here you can see the final result, right? And this is the DB verification. Now what we'll do, guys, let's do this at listener level. How can we implement this? So what I'll do, I'll remove it simply from here, and what I'll do, we have listener, we have to go to the listener class. From com.orangehrm.listener. So here we have listener class. So here we can implement it. So there is an interface using which we can implement it. So what is that? IAnnotationTransformer. This is the annotation, this is the interface, guys. IAnnotation I think this is the correct one. Why it is not taking implements ITestListener IAnnotation. So here we have double T. Now this, why it is not taking IAnnotation. It should not be double N, right? So TION. Yeah, IAnnotation, right? This is the exact interface, IAnnotation from org.TestNG, correct? So we have to implement this one because this will modify at the rate test annotation at runtime, right? It will modify our test at the rate test annotation at the rate test annotation at runtime. So it will apply the same logic what we have done individually at the rate test level, right? So whatever we have given over here, that will be applicable when we implement this interface. Now this has one unimplemented method, so what it is not showing over here. So what we can do, we can simply go to source, and from here we can override implement methods. We can implement from here. So what is that method, guys? From here we have to use this method, transform method. So we need to simply add that and simply delete the body of this method. And here we have test annotation. This represents the at the rate test annotation. This parameter represents the test class. We have another parameter constructor. If you have any test constructor for a test class, usually we don't have, but in case if you have, then that represents the constructor of the test class. And this one we have test method, right? So these are the different parameters we have in this transform method. So what we need to do, simply we have to call one method called annotation dot, that method set RetryAnalyzer. We have to call like this, and here we have to simply pass the our RetryAnalyzer class. So RetryAnalyzer class, copy it from here, put it over here, dot class, like this. Now it is done, guys. This is at listener level, right? And no need to apply the logic over here at the rate test level. So now if I run it, then it will show us the same results over here. So let me try it. You can see the same result over here. It is again retries 2 times the API test case. So like this, and let me deliberately fill the DB test case as well, so that it will applicable for all the test cases. We need to make sure like it will be applicable for all the test cases. So here what I'll do, simply I'll add between his first name and last name, I'll add at the rate test. I'll mention like in between first name and last name test. So this will be also filled. So 2 more things will test case will be added over here retries. Okay, so let's have a look. So the first time it got failed. Now again it is retrying for the second time the DB test case, and it will fail again, and then it will try one more time the DB test case, the final time, right? I mean 1 plus 2. One is the original run and 2 times it is retrying the test case. So it is failed for the third time as well. So you can see it's total 6 runs, and you can see from the reports as well. Correct. So this is how you can apply the logic, guys, retry logic. So just implement it in your framework as well. And this is all for today. So in the next session, what we'll do, we'll talk about how we are going to push our code to GitHub, so that it will be applicable for all you guys to clone it, right? So this is all for today, guys. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day. Bye bye.